Hello everyone, welcome to my review of Season 5, Episode 2 of Arrow, titled The Recruits. Before I get into this review, I just want to warn everyone that there will be spoilers. This episode is all about what the title suggests, the new recruits for Team Arrow. In this episode, we get a glimpse of what the new team may or may not be, and that is Curtis, Artemis, and Wild Dog. In this episode, Oliver is instructing them in the aspects of teamwork. He's having them try to get around him and ring this bell. We come to find out in the episode, this was kind of part of his training when he was trying to get into the Barava. In the flashbacks, it's nice to see that the flashbacks are actually having some type of impact on the main plot line. As we learn in the episode, Oliver is not the best teacher. He is very tough, very hard, very unforgiving to the new recruits. And he's doing so because this is the way he was trained with the Bratva. Also, we learn in the episode that there is a vigilante in Star City named Ragman who is going after this company Amarak because they were the ones who developed the bombs that, if you remember, were launched in last season by Damien Dark. And as we recall, one of those bombs could not be deactivated in time, so Felicity had to send it to a low-populated area in order to avoid mass casualties. And at the time I was watching it, I knew that this would somehow have bigger ramifications later on. We also learned that Amarak is somehow in cahoots with Tobias Church. They're doing some type of arms dealing where Amarak is supplying Tobias Church, and Tobias Church is giving Amarak apparently much-needed money because their company is going bankrupt. In the episode, Oliver has to come to the realization that he's going to have to start to trust people a lot more. We knew that trust was a big problem with the older Team Arrow. He's going to really have to make amends and kind of fix those problems within himself. And we saw at the end of this episode where he took one step further, where he revealed his identity to this new Team Arrow that he's trying to develop. I kind of knew that he would have to do that at some point. It's getting to the point where he is getting closer and closer to having to reveal himself to more and more people. I think eventually down the line, perhaps later on in this season, or perhaps the season finale, we will get Oliver Queen revealing himself to the rest of Star City. Contrary to the way he was presented in the episode, Ragman is not an actual bad guy. He is a vigilante, actually, from Gotham in the comic books. So, even though he had the presence of a villain, he is not a villain. He's probably going to be working with Team Arrow, but who is definitely still a lingering villain. And yet again, just like the last episode, we got a glimpse of him towards the end, Prometheus, who attacks Tobias Church as he's leaving a building. Prometheus, who is starting to mobilize a little bit more. So I'm curious, are we just going to get these slow, dragged out reveals at the end of every episode? Or is he going to make his mark known relatively soon? There was also a plot line with John Diggle in this episode where he is still in the military, but he goes on this mission, and come to find out that the people in charge of this mission had a different outcome than what he thought was going to happen. They were going to steal these nuclear devices and sell them probably on the black market and make a lot of money. And they're going to use him as a patsy. What is very interesting in this situation is that normally we would have Oliver or someone be able to assist him and kind of swoop in and save the day. But in this instant, he is all alone on the other side of the world, so we are not quite sure what is going to happen with him. And as we saw with last week's episode, Quentin Lance is going through a very difficult personal time. With his alcoholism, he is not able to be relied upon in any major way. He seems like a very broken, very distraught man. And I feel like there is so much character development and character things they can do with his character right now that they're not really taking full advantage of that, because he is a character going through so much emotion that we really need to see that on screen. And I'm very curious that they're using Thea as kind of a surrogate, perhaps daughter for him, because he kind of needs someone in his life to help him. It's very interesting that she wanted him to become the deputy mayor of Star City, which I think is kind of kind of a big leap for him right now. I don't think he can mentally and personally handle that type of responsibility. He's got to get his life in order first, really clean himself up, and get back in a proper mental state before I think he could take on any type of authoritative role. As we saw in this episode, he couldn't really handle a security assignment at one of Oliver Queen's mayoral events. We got to see a little bit more of Felicity's new boyfriend in the episode. He is a police officer at the SCPD, which is kind of very interesting. I'm wondering, was he always working there, or is he a new person who moved to the city? Those types of details haven't been revealed yet. All we got was kind of a small snippet of a scene where she delivered some evidence from the Ragman to him to get analyzed, which I thought was very interesting. I thought perhaps she could have done it herself somehow. I thought that they had the technology at the Arrow base to do things like that, specifically with both Felicity and Curtis there. Also, a small nitpicky thing. Why, when you have this type of unknown evidence in your hand, that you're handling it without any type of protective gloves? You don't know what this material is, if it's dangerous, if it's going to infect you, or what have you. Why are you handling it with your bare hands? You're contaminating it. What are you doing? Just small things like that could have been written into the episode for things to make a little more sense. Similar to last episode, there is a heavy emphasis on action. I think that's going to be throughout the season, because they're really trying to capture that grittiness and action-packed elements from the first season. Also, once again, a lot of use of Steadicam in the action sequences and outside of the action sequences, so I think they're going to keep employing that throughout the season as well. Oliver is apparently killing again, which I know was a big issue for him in seasons 2, 3, and 4. He didn't want to do it, but in this episode, it looked like he killed someone, so he is back to that season 1 mentality where there are no half measures. Some negative aspects with the episode, I would have to say, are the overall predictability that's inherent in the show now. I knew that the event that Oliver had set up was going to be attacked, because no matter how much security they seem to put at these events, there's always an attack no matter what. They could triple the security, quadruple the security, go as much security as they want at these types of events, and there will always be an attack there. It happens all the time. But by this point in the series, you kind of have to accept that these things are going to happen. Overall, it was a decent episode. We got some more action. We got to see some new recruits that are probably going to be more involved with Team Arrow this season. We got to see a little bit more of Prometheus, also Tobias Church as well. We also got to see some type of character growth with Oliver Queen, some type of character growth that I think we probably should have seen by now. This has been my review of Season 5, Episode 2 of Arrow, titled The Recruits. If you like this review, please check out my other reviews of the episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Flash, Supergirl, Gotham,